Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roche Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We are about halfway through the college basketball regular season, and as more and more results come in, you can kind of tell which coaches are on the hot seat, and it's not looking good for their chances to remain as the head coach of that school. Things continue in the wrong direction, and one coach that we know for sure is in a whole lot of hot water is Juwan Howard at the Michigan Wolverines. There is tons of things going wrong for Michigan right now. They are 6-10 on the season. They're losing games left and right, and Juwan Howard has a lot of issues going on with himself and his basketball team right now. One of his best players, Doug McDaniels, is suspended for some of their future road games this season because of academic issues, and Juwan Howard missed some games this season because he had a heart condition that he had to take care of. That's really tough for Juwan Howard. I hate that he's going through that, but it's kind of like when Thad Matta stepped away from Ohio State. When you have some health problems, sometimes you got to focus on yourself because it's very hard to focus on your basketball team when you yourself is not 100% when it comes to your health. Plus, we've also seen Juwan Howard in the past get into some altercations with other people. He's gotten into an altercation with one of his assistant coaches last year, and he also got into an altercation with an assistant coach for Wisconsin. That was an ugly mess, and a lot of people thought that he was going to get fired right after that incident, but somehow Juwan Howard was able to keep his job. A lot of coaches might have been fired in that situation, but I understand why Michigan does not want to fire Juwan Howard, because he is a alma mater guy. He played for the Michigan Wolverines. He was a part of the Fab Five, and that was one of the best eras of Michigan basketball. And him being the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, being a former player, you just don't want to let him go. But when you look at like Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, they had to make the same move. Georgetown did not want to fire Patrick Ewing, but his record was 75-109, and he was 28-81 in the Big East Conference. That is absolutely abysmal. Georgetown was not going to be able to improve with Patrick Ewing at head coach. They had a glimmer of hope back in 2018-2019. They were having some success, but then everything went down south when a bunch of players got suspended from the team, and then he had to kick them off the team, and then their team got a lot worse after that. He wasn't able to bring in more talent. And I know you can look at Juwan Howard and say, well, his record's a lot better than Patrick Ewing. He's 85-59 and 47-35 in the Big Ten. But those first two seasons when he was at Michigan from 2019 through 2021, especially that 2020-2021 season where they went to the Elite Eight, most of that was John Beilein's squad. John Beilein assembled a really good roster, and then he just up and left the Michigan Wolverines and decided to go off to the NBA because John Beilein wanted to have that on his resume and say, I coached in the NBA. That was a big loss for Michigan because you look at what John Beilein's done as a head coach. He's been a coach for a long time, but his most successful stints were at West Virginia, where he went 104-60 as a head coach, and then at Michigan, where he was able to take them all the way to the national title game in the 2017-18 season and a whole bunch of other NCAA tournament appearances. He went 278-150 and 126-92 in the Big Ten, and his total record as a head coach is 754-425. That is really good. No, this was not as daunting as trying to take over for the legendary Nick Saban for Alabama football, but having to come in to be the next coach of Michigan basketball after John Beilein was not an easy task because Michigan has standards in college basketball and the type standard that John Beilein set for Michigan with the type success that he had. But Juwan Howard, after all of John Beilein's players left the team because they either went off to the NBA or they graduated, you could tell that it started to go in the wrong direction. In 2021-2022, they went 19-15, and yes, they made the Sweet 16, but they barely squeaked into the NCAA tournament. Last year, they only made the NIT, and this year, they're probably not going to even make the NCAA tournament at all, and possibly not even the NIT. And I don't know if it's because of the fact Juwan Howard is going through health issues right now that it's causing him to not be completely focused with this team, or if it's just that he has not gotten the right players to fit on this squad, but for whatever the reason, they're not winning games. Hunter Dickinson's no longer with the Michigan Wolverines. Jordan Poole is no longer with the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan's had some good players in the last few years, but they've lost them, and Hunter Dickinson was the biggest blow because he decided to transfer from Michigan to Kansas because he wants to win. And the Kansas Jayhawks, what are they doing right now? We know Bill Self is one of the best coaches in college basketball, and we know he can assemble talented rosters, but when Hunter Dickinson Richardson leaves Michigan to go to a program that's actually winning, and now Michigan's left with a team like this where they're going 6-10, it's not good. And I know that Juwan Howard brought in Olivier Nkamhoua, and yes, he's having a pretty solid year, but Michigan's not playing good defense. They're giving up way too many points in games. They're turnover prone, and outside of a couple of their better players, they're not getting a lot of production from the bench. And when you're having guys like Doug McDaniel get suspended for academics, it makes it a whole lot worse. And then Juwan Howard's health issues, plus the incidences he's had in the past year of hitting the Wisconsin assistant coach and getting into it with one of his own assistants. All of this comes together to say that Michigan probably needs to move on from Juwan Howard. I know they don't want to do it, and I don't want to see Juwan Howard basically get fired or part ways with the Michigan Wolverines. I don't like that to happen to any coach. I like Juwan Howard. He was a fantastic basketball player, and it was admirable of him to try to lead his alma mater to success in college basketball and follow up one of the better coaches in Michigan basketball history in John Beilein. But when it's not working, it's not working. Scott Frost got fired at Nebraska in college football. Patrick Ewing got fired at the Georgetown Hoyas in college basketball. Sometimes you just have to know when it's the right time, and Michigan is moving in the wrong direction. Unless there is a massive turnaround this season, if Michigan finishes under 500, I think that the Michigan Wolverines need to move on from Juwan Howard. It's not just the on-the-court results. The off-the-court results are a problem as well, and Juwan Howard might need to take care of his health too. He needs to think about himself and the team, and probably the right move will be for the Michigan Wolverines to move on from Juwan Howard, and for Juwan Howard to realize that this isn't working out and maybe I need to step away from coaching as of now. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, whether you're on the fence about Juwan Howard, if you think that he deserves more time at Michigan to turn it around. If they can't turn it around, maybe he still deserves some more time, or whether you believe, kind of like me, that there's just too many things stacking up with Juwan Howard, with the altercations off the court, the health issues, the academic problems with some of the players, and the fact that this team is just flat out terrible and they're not winning basketball games, that you think he needs to step away or Michigan needs to part ways with Juwan Howard. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.